Hey, Brickmaniacs, we're here in the GHQ a little bit after World War Brick, and well, when other than World War Brick would you have a collection of these faces around here? So we're just going to hang out for a little bit and talk Lego. Before we do that, though, I want to make sure everybody knows who everyone is. So this is Andrea. He's a designer for us as well. You can find him as Josta11 on Instagram and probably other places as well. This is George. You can find him as George Go Boom on Instagram and other places as well. This is Andreas, and you can find him as ASAP Animation. This is Justin. You can find him as Juan Solo, and I feel like you guys know Shy. You can find him as Shy Time is My Time. So we're all here hanging out in the GHQ. We've got some models in front of us. We were talking a little bit about playing with kits. We were talking a little bit about color schemes. We're kind of just going every direction here and seeing where it takes us. So, which is kind of funny that I mentioned the color thing, because we literally have the only purple plane and the only pink 4x4, like pretty much in the GHQ. We decided to pick those. So
all by the same guy.
had to break in some color. So
yeah, the Germans went crazy with colors during World War I, and this is like the best rendition we can do about that specific color scheme they had on their bombers. The flying circus and stuff, they were pretty famous. And the SIS is famous for using pink on their vehicles because they often attacked at dawn. So in the desert, the pink, they found out it's pretty effective as a camouflage. And yeah, this is one of my most popular builds. We have two great minifigs over there to go with it. Yeah, 1968 Land Rover. And this is the G8 number 4 late war medium bomber, frontline bomber mostly, because it only had 150 kilometers of range. So it was pretty
you had to have it pretty
bomber,
close up. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
now did you know all that?
That's some West Coast shit.
That's to make you feel at home, man. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yes. I couldn't resist.
Yes. Now I want that some more.
It's a great build.
Dude.
It was there.
So cool.
All right. Does your Humvee do that?
The Land
and you know
Rover,
what to buy.
right? Our Land Rover 101 does that.
That's pretty cool.
You could have a whole West Coast inspired Land Rover. It was there.
I need to get some Cholo minifigures.
Yes.
Can you just imagine, though, like waking up in the desert in camp and you're looking off towards the sunrise and you're watching this beautiful pink hued layers or whatever, and then you're like, is that headlights? And then boom, it's over. Because they are already right there. Like, yeah,
that's how the SIS do it.
Right. It's like the pink car is ridiculous until it's not.
Yeah.
Until it works.
True, yeah. Honestly, before this kit, I never knew there was a pink machinery for the military. So that's actually good to know that, that type of history is there.
Yeah. They did it also in World War II. They had pink Jeeps or almost pink Jeeps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Was that just an SAS thing?
Yeah.
No one else did that?
Mainly SIS. This is SIS, and the long range desert group did that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Surprised that we didn't jump on board that train.
Can you imagine a pink Abrams?
Just couldn't.
That would be really cool. That would be pretty cool.
I can lie, yeah.
That would be.
We're gonna have to go check the parts lab.
Yeah, right.
As a kid, I think that would be a hot seller.
The Hello Kitty tank.
Yes.
Hello Kitty tank. Yeah.
Maybe we should tell Nate to make it as a Sherman. I'm sure he'll.
Oh, man. Put Nate down with pink bricks, and I think he'd only build a Sherman.
Well, I'm down for a Hello Kitty type of,
Legally distinct. What would be like a goodbye puppy? The goodbye puppy tank. Sounds a little dark. I don't know.
It would be pretty bad, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I think any color or accented color, let alone something that's dominating, not gray, in a vast collection of gray, like Star Wars, is cool to have to kind of just pop out.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. It's nice when we get to do that because, we can't do what Lego did with Friends. Let's make a lineup that's really colorful and cool and whatever. And because we want to bring some cool and colors into our whatever, we can't just be like, well, let's pretend that, everything wasn't military gray, you know what I mean? And make it these other colors or whatever. I mean, you could if you took just some artistic liberties, but it wouldn't be the same for the people who are like, well, that's not my.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you're doing hyperrealism, it doesn't make any sense. But I personally like building a lot of these sets, like building a lot of Lego Star Wars or anything that's primarily dominantly dark bluish gray or light bluish gray. I do get happy building a friend set every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
The teal, the pink, the purple, and any of the sand greens or sand blues. It's just, it's like, this is fun to build. But having that in a Brickmania kit is also like, I would have never thought to see purple in a Brickmania set, let alone pink. And it's captured very well.
Well, how many times do you lose a piece to building an all black set? You know what I mean? It's like, I can't tell the difference between any of this. It's all the same color.
I think we've just been coming back to using like a regular green. Like there was such a long time we only used like dark green, olive green, and like dark gray for the olive tanks. But now you start introducing like a regular green again. And I'm like, it's been a while since we just did regular green, but it's a nice color.
Really makes some of those darker colors pop. I know I've done it. Nicholas Kramer did it with the tweet. I want to say somebody else recently did it. And then, Nicholas is, the Falklands plane just did with the.
Was it the Puma or the Picara? Yeah.
Oh, that was John Canapa's. Yeah, the sand green. That was fantastic. But the Mirage. That did with the yellow on it, mixed with the green and the dark tan and everything. I mean, that's a fantastic looking. It definitely sticks out among a sea of dark gray and tan. And
not saying that dark gray is not bad or anything. It looks cool, but it is great to see like color.
Yeah,
so it really makes a pop out in your collection.
That yellow ladder on the side of that thing too. It just glows.
Yeah, no, that was a great kit he did. Yeah, I never would have thought yellow and green and dark tan would go together, but proved me wrong.
There you go.
So,
little something for all of you to kind of play with, right?
I do a lot of color in mine, but I usually bury it deep down inside, mainly because those parts are cheaper. The dark gray hull. So
that's always funny too when you open like a Brickmania Sherman or whatever, and you're like, why is there lime green in here? Oh crap, where's this gonna go? You know what I mean? Then as you're building, you're like, oh, it's all hidden. No big deal.
No, but it is a relief to have those colored bricks, to break up the.
Especially when you're digging through them. Say, I didn't realize till the other day. All three of my Sea King helicopters have a 3x3 bright pink plate right above the cockpit. It's like they have a brain. Kind of like the brickheads. Exactly. I'm like, that was unintentional. 3x3 dark or light pink plate is the cheapest of the 3x3 plates. That's the only reason I buy or design it like that.
Right. Gotta leave it to the Brickmania team and design to be able to figure that out, to make sure that it's one, good enough to buy, in mass, but two, easy to do when you're building it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it definitely breaks it up.
Does that help you as a designer? Like knowing that knowledge to be able to consider that as a, as you're building, like maybe you should use these.
Yeah, say anytime I'm designing, I'm always constantly on Bricklink or Lego's Pick-a-Brick, trying to see, one, if it's available, two, if it is available, how much is out there for possible restocks or larger run than just 50. So it's a constant back and forth. And the last Sea King I did was supposed to have the 2x6 slopes left and right on each side on the bottom. Well, when Brendan started working on it, he sent me some stuff. He changed the parts around, and it didn't click in my head till later. Dan and I were having a conversation, and he says, yeah, the MV-22 Osprey's already retired. I'm like, didn't it just come out? He says, we bought all those last left and right slopes to make that last batch. I'm like, that's why they're not on the Sea King. When I built it a year ago and designed it, they were everywhere. Now they're gone. I'm like, man. And so it's something you've always constantly got to be looking out for. So
and not only that is when you buy something in mass quantity on Bricklink, well, I've come to realize this recently, is when the parts start to become scarce, they also start to get more expensive.
Exactly.
Because now you're also not only buying it overseas and having to pay that shipping cost, but like whoever has the parts left can see that the price of it or the inventory of it's gone
low, so
now they can raise the price up. So that's a delicate balance that Brickmania has to deal with consistently having to put out replenishment of specific sets. So it's cool to know that a set that is released is exclusive for the time, and hopefully it is replenished. And but it's also not a deterrence, because it doesn't mean that you guys are going to redesign it. Just means it won't be the same exact thing, which also makes that set special.
Yeah. So there's obviously we all know there's a lot of stuff that has been bestsellers. I mean, look at the row of Humvees over here that have had a span of 20 years in different parts usage and stuff. But yeah, say once those parts start drying up, the kit's probably going to get retired, put in the vault. But then later down the road, like, oh, new parts are coming out. Let's V2, V3, whatever. So
That's always a tough part.
It's an evolution.
I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, and have been for years since I've been here. But like that's the whole like, well, why don't you would if you made them cheaper, you'd sell more. And it's like, yeah, but in a lot of cases, there are no more to sell. Like we literally know how many batches we're going to be able to make. And so that really doesn't apply. And I've actually been impressed at Brickmania's restraint in certain areas, like especially for like the Thunder Chief and stuff like that, when we know we're only going to get 50 and we still treat it like a normal kit. The same price modifiers go into it, the same, you know what I mean? Whatever. Yeah. We don't like look at that and go, all right, you know what? If we can only make one and we know it's going to be popular, let's tack on an extra $150 or something on there to try to, you know what I mean? I feel like I have to clear up that misconception every once in a while, because sometimes I feel like people look at that and go, oh man, they're just trying to make a killing while they can. And it's like, it's more like trying to get parts and make the kits available while we can. And then when we can't, it's done. And then that's interesting that you mentioned like, oh, when I built that Sea King, the parts were all over the place and now they're gone, because like that really does dictate how these models evolve and what these designers have at their disposal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, a year ago, a lot of those parts were readily available, and then the kit that just released, it's like those parts are extremely scarce, rare. Found a whole stash in the warehouse, but that's Dan's stuff. So
I have a lot of friends that actually do brickmaking, they sell and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And every now and then they'll be like, hey, BKM just wiped me out.
Yep.
I'm like,
Eli.
I'm like, whoa. Yeah. But like they always tell me like they love the company because it supports so many small businesses throughout the Lego community as a massive whole. Because like bricklaying sellers don't always sell immediately right away. So sometimes some smaller stores only have so much of one thing, and then once they're wiped out, like it kind of compensates the rest of their inventory that doesn't move. Mm-hmm. So Brickmania will come in, swoosh up everything, and then it kind of makes it worth doing for them, and it makes them continue with making their store more viable, buying all their stuff. So it kind of generates this whole economy within the Lego community as a whole. So and they tell me when they get wiped out with specific pieces, I'm like, oh, like especially if it's like one specific piece you see in a kit, and like, oh, okay, they wiped you out, and you start looking at the pieces, and then I asked them like, so are you going to jump the price if you get more? It's like, if I can get more of that because it came from a specific Lego set that is no longer available. Yeah. So it's like I said before, it's a great dance that Brickmania is not only doing for the Lego community, but like trying to stay, keep their kits moving and finding that balance of price and, like explaining the science behind it. A lot of people forget that there's overhead, a lot of people forget that, like
literally,
I can make this set for a quarter of the fraction. Like, then go ahead. That's good for you. But if you want to support the business, if you want to support the people behind it, there's a lot that comes to it than just what they're being paid. Yeah. There's this, there's lights, there's insurance, there's taxes, there's, and you want to make it, you want to make an incentive to want to work here. So like, definitely. You have to pay competitive, pricing to your employees. And, and then every employee that I've met loves working here. And that's very hard to see nowadays. Very hard to see. And the loyalty that your company has with its own employees and employees to the company, it speaks for itself. So I'm willing to invest into that. I love for that. And hands down, I'll defend it, until either goes under or becomes something big. But like it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. It's become an icon for the entire Lego community, let alone the military side of it. And it's keep doing what you're doing. Did I end it? I hope I did it.
No, it's all good. You don't have to wrap there.
Yeah. I just had to get that out there.
No, it's a cool note. It's nice to see people being as passionate about the people behind the business as they are about the builds, because not everybody sees that. They see the Lego, and like you said, they look at Dan and go, I wonder what he makes, doing this, that, and the other thing. And they, it's like, you get it. You get paid to create Lego. That's a pretty good gig. That's a pretty good gig. And so I think that having people then looking beyond it and be like, well, you got to remember that there's like part sorters. They got an IT person. They've got, this kind of that and the other thing all together. HR.
How many people touch this set alone?
Need living wages. Right. Exactly.
How many people touch this set? Exactly. 25 to 30 people, maybe?
Not every bit of it.
Yeah. Every touch, like not literally touching it, but like worked on this one thing. And if we want to compare it to Lego, that's not fair. because Lego is this monstrosity of a company who can make it, at the dime per brick, like less than like a fraction of a dime per brick. We got to pay for it like on the aftermarket. So we are, your price is also determined by what the community is selling it for. So, like I said before, like Brickmania, like is supporting the entire Lego community, like with sellers, the value of it, and then obviously the fans behind it. So, and then let alone people working for it. So it's this whole like little machine that's now become this like ballet of movement.
And then it became even different when you guys showed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because suddenly now it's not just Dan cranking out, however many models a year mixed with, his minions in the area. Like you guys came around and
It's worldwide at this point, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much worldwide. So I'm from the Midwest of the United States. Justin's from
California.
West Coast,
Italy.
Italy.
Yeah, Norway. We can design 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
You guys asleep. We are over in Europe.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're on the clock 24/7.
the night shift. I just think about it that way.
That's on Brickmania.
I'll be going to bed, and he's like just about getting up. I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. It's your turn.
So yeah.
Coffee's made.
So it is cool to see like what sets will be coming out next, like especially when you guys try to tie it into like whatever's relevant to the history of that time, for example, D-Day or Walker's War, anything that, because history continues.
Exactly.
It's
We've
not
seen that with Project Ukraine.
Yeah, very relevant with Project Ukraine. That's happening in real time. So sets and minifigures are changing and being technically updated in real time.
Seriously.
And it's already written down in history. It's not going anywhere. So, like everything here has history somehow, even the science fiction stuff.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Yeah.
So, Lego doesn't really do that a lot. And, this fills that void of, many historians, many people who love the military. Like, and it's like I said, it hits so much nostalgia for anyone who's in it. And let alone anyone who's ever seen one of these just fly by them over their heads and inspired by awe, like, oh my God, is that a Cobra? What is that? I don't know what is that. It looks cool.
Shocking.
I don't know a grown man that doesn't hear a Chinook fly over and stop everything they're doing. Like,
No, for real. Like, and if you see a helicopter or a jet fly by, that's not a civilian thing.
Yep.
You're like, are we getting attacked? One, and then two is like they're in awe by the might behind it because it's a thing that at least in our country that's really really looked up upon. So to see them fly over and then see it here, like, oh, cool. It's like it brings out the joys of the youth and the thing behind it, because obviously flying in those things all day would probably suck, but like to because I love that, like I love that as a Marine, like when the civilians get to see you, like you get to see your vehicles, you get to see your equipment and what you do, you're like, it's like watching a kid going on a semi truck going like this.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? The same thing, you see the heads roll with the children, obviously.
Yeah.
But you also see grown adults do the same thing. But you can see a little bit of fear in their eyes. but they're just like kids all over again. That's the same concept with especially the military side of the Lego community, is that you have that like, is this a Lego set? I'm kind of afraid of this. Is it real? Is it actual Lego? And you're like, no, it's Lego. Lego made this? Like, no, Lego did not make this. Let me give you a little rundown.
It's a tough distinction, right? Because you literally can't explain it like in a sentence. Yeah, it was made by Lego, but also it was made with Lego, but not by Lego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of tough. The concept to grasp.
And also Lego wouldn't make it to this detail.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? They would never, like if, let's say they did decide to do a Humvee, it would not look like that.
No, I agree. It probably looked like something closer when Dan first started. It's right.
Yeah, very basic, clean. Would they make a Panzer like these? Like, no.
Can you imagine a creator Panzer? Build the 1, 2, and 3.
literally be attacked.
Do you think Lego would do this?
Lego did do this. Lego did do this first. Did not look like this. It looked like a cartoon in comparison to this. But that's the one thing that's also good about Brickmania is that you attention to detail to the actual vehicle is one of the keystones of the kit, because oh my gosh, like how accurate you're supposed to be. Man, I can only imagine the flack you get for making a mistake. You know what I mean, with one of these. So Lego would never get to this level.
Yeah, that's like a weird thing to think about too, because I think that a lot of that was driven by the customer base. When Dan started, you look at the blacksmith shop, like Lego did release that, what I mean, to a degree or whatever. So he was kind of building in that medium. But I think as he, I don't know if you guys have seen World War II tank or some of the earlier, that they put together.
The original.
But I think it was the people buying those that he started to realize, like, well, I can do more. But you have to pay for it then. And they were like, no, do more. And he's like, okay, well, I could probably even be more detailed than this. And they're like, do it. And he's like, well, okay. Well, and then eventually we get to something like this. And now we're like pushing, the barriers, the designers push each other to continue to push that barrier. And it's like, wow, you're right. These are like super detailed. And some of them are so well paneled. Even I'm like, no one's going to be able to tell what that's made of. It's going to be sitting there and people are going to have to really slow down when they walk by to be like, is that not a die cast? No, it's not. Wait a minute. There's like seams in that. And I think I recognize those studs. Oh my gosh. Is that, you know what I mean? Like that's so.
With that though, with the printing that's now being done on all these sets, now it's taken to another level. And we're also forgetting the minifigs.
Yeah, right.
The minifigs, like, like the art and history that the company has done has evolved with just the minifig. You just need one minifig to a set and like, boom. Masterpiece done.
Yeah, that's definitely people can see the detail of the builds and recognize you guys as artists. You know what I mean? But then the actual artwork that gets applied to them, I think sometimes people look at like even various military insignias, patches, stuff like that, and they just go, well, Slam probably just takes a picture offline and puts it on there or whatever. And it's like, no, dude, he literally has to translate that by hand in the Lego aesthetic.
So difficult.
Yeah, so that's all line drawn with either a pen or a mouse click. So I'm sure everybody's seen the behind the scenes video of Landon doing something on that tablet over his computer. So yeah, it's not just, I can scan it, set it there, digitize it.
Yeah, and you, Mr. Italian, with all your markings on your aircraft.
Yeah.
I tried to learn, but it was I'm just designing.
You can do that.
We just stack bricks. We're not the artists. So
But speaking on the minifigs, though, the balance between having it make it too real and Lego-esque is there. Like I've seen minifigures done before, and they're just too detailed that you lose what's actually there. You don't see it. You have to really like look at a magnifying glass and be like, oh, that's a magazine pouch. I didn't know that was a magazine pouch. Whereas here, like he's trying to keep the the pouches kind of like toyish, in a way, but still going above and beyond with this like colored tinting to get that more realistic fabric. So that concept and the lines specifically, texture. So that weeks worth of work. You know what I mean? So going back to the, why is it so expensive? Well,
there's a lot of work that goes.
There's a lot of work that goes into it. Like how, you also got to keep that in consideration that there's also printing that has to be done with it. There's testing that has to be done, like there's UV printers to like maintain and calibrate and all that kind of mumbo jumbo, and let alone pay for because they're super expensive. So, there's all those expenses that, bring this to people's homes, that people don't appreciate, that I feel like, goes underrated a little bit sometimes.
Well, and the keeping it within that Lego aesthetic artwork wise is definitely like a preference, that Brickmania, Landon, and then Drew and Amanda and whatnot have continued to push forward. But I think that there's been kind of that like no holds barred on several kits where just Drew and Slam and everyone just kind of is like, you know what? let's just really rock this one. And I think that the Saturday matinee playset with the dust printing on the side, that was an example of like literally parts are on printer back there doing stuff, and we're walking there going, did you ask anyone if this was what the direction of the kit was going to go? And Slam's like, I wanted to find out if I could do it.
That was great.
It was a Sherman.
Fantastic.
It wasn't a Sherman.
Just like the color shifting and everything. Like there's a lot of work and a lot of ink that goes into this stuff.
No, it's a great looking kit. The sand takes it to another level for sure. Because Lego didn't do that.
No, definitely not.
Lego did not.
That's a fantastic truck. probably the only one that I actually play with from time to time. I mean, who doesn't want to relive that iconic scene?
Yeah, and of course you got the bar gate on the front that tips backwards so perfectly.
Some stuff you gotta add in there when it's Lego. You gotta want to play with it. And also, it's like working with the scale, like the cab. That should probably be just like one stud smaller. It's like, but then you don't get the fist fight in there. You want to play with this thing and everything. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's a cool example of like where you're thinking about the customer experience before you even have all your bricks together. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking to yourself like, well, I know what I want to do with this thing, and I want to punch the driver out of the driver's seat. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, exactly. That's really, really cool.
Who doesn't want to punch a Tesla?
And even like the crates, I think always like adding like the printed crates to everything, like the tanks, and the cars and everything. It's the little detail that just brings it above and beyond anything like you've ever seen Lego do.
Yeah, I totally agree. The problem is with that part is like that's where so much of our costs are incorporated is in those printing. It's like you'd love to see even like, stud light on the Abrams, stuff like that. Yeah, like it's cute to throw that in there, but that's a $3 print.
Yeah.
Like how much does the customer really want the little stud light cooler back there? If that's, and it's like $3, not a big deal, but you put a bunch of those in there or you do something along the side and whatnot, it will incur significant costs. But in situations like this, people look at it and go, oh my God, I'm glad they did it that way because it's never been done like that. Yeah.
I should have added this to my top 10.
Hey, it's like there's some other videos I watch on YouTube. They always have that bonus extra. Got the top 10, but there's always that sneaky number 11 that pops.
No, your set came in. I'm sorry. took the lead. No. Aww. This is a great looking set. It's hands down one of my favorites in my collection for sure. Just a lot of love came into it, and you can see it by the end result. So yeah, it's a representation of the company now, of how it is now versus how it was even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It evolves so much, with the printing, with the minifigs, with the design.
And the part selection, like even just like comparing to the Opel Blitz, there's a lot of new parts compared to that, like that's come out the last several years. So.
How are you supposed to top this?
Oh. Can we?
I think we have an idea.
Well, I was going to say, it's like then you segue into like the 3D printed part of it. And, like we were exploring with that new deuce and a half and whatnot of like having those 3D printed wheels and like the stuff that it allows us to do even outside the medium. Obviously we wouldn't be replacing the foundational structures of it with anything but genuine Lego. But when you have something that just does not exist, like the M777 muzzle brake or whatever, and you have to transfer it, like having those things be able to do what they can do is nothing short of a miracle for being able to have this stuff become, like you said, arrive in people's houses.
And the whole 3D printing game, that's a battle amongst itself to make it compatible with Lego and function well.
Yeah.
So that takes time and effort as well.
Yeah. So
you also don't want to cross the line with 3D printing, because if it's too much, people don't like it. I personally don't like it. I'm reluctant to use monopods sometimes.
Yeah, I feel you.
I'm pretty purist that way. Or W clips from Brickmania. I rarely use those. But 3D printing, if it's a muzzle, barrel, wheels, maybe sometimes. If something has very weird wheels, big ones, full ones, that's cool for me. Yeah, and it brings it all together.
Oh yeah. Like this would be considered like outdated because then a couple months later we got the 3D printed wheels. So.
Yeah. that would have been perfect for that.
Oh yeah, it's like the same wheel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Still though, without it still looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fine. It's just kind of that more next level, what can you do in certain areas. But I do respect you for the purist side of things, because I do think that there is a significant portion of people that when they are checking out the website and they see, 129 genuine Lego elements, and then it just ends, they're like, ooh, Josta, what have you done this time? Because that looks pretty good, and I'm wondering how the interior
I think
works.
this one was a Lego piece, and then the project designer changed it with monopods, and I got pretty angry. Didn't get angry about it. But you do that?
A lot of people will come and say, oh, you just print your own pieces. That's cheating. But we make like sure that this works just in Lego, and then the 3D prints and the U-clips.
It's a detail.
That's just a detail.
Function.
That's just a hat that Lego wouldn't give us.
Yeah,
or whatever. It's the barrel. Like Lego would never do a barrel. It's like, that's just a the little extra detail, but everything else is Lego. And we make sure to do that. Unlike Kobe or whatever fake brand, they want to do like their own curves, like Lego's
Canopies and
curves.
Yeah.
I usually battle it out like this. Like, if any purist, sorry. I'm like, all right, so for your UCS Millennium Falcon, what is it on? Oh, it's on a wicked brick stand.
That's not Lego.
That's not Lego. Do you light up your Lego city?
Good made, yep.
That's not Lego. What is your city laying on? IKEA tables. That's not Lego. So same concept, you know. It's not like Lego has this in their inventory for you to utilize it. So, who cares? You know, it's something that like it enhances the build from what it is. You know, it may take it to another level. And if it's not as long as it's not dominating the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like a little, like maybe one or two things in there. You know, it plays a good line of being like it's acceptable. It is acceptable. At least a lot of people that I speak to about it are like, yeah, Lego doesn't make it. What are you gonna do?
And even with like the 3D printed and the brick arms, it's not just like taking the real model and scaling it down. You have to Legofy it. Like it has to. It's like what would happen if Lego were to make a weapon. Like they would make it like a figure you can hold it and everything. You can't just shrink it down. And like a minifigure hat. A human head isn't perfectly circular.
No.
Like you gotta adapt and work it in there. So it's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yeah.
And just by like spending the week the week I've been here, like seeing everything that goes into it, it like brings a whole perspective to the whole building the kit, seeing it from the designer, then going to how they order the pieces and everything, like how Brickmania orders the pieces, and then on top of that, getting to see the pieces being printed in real time is like amazing.
It definitely goes through a lot of hands.
Yeah.
So it like
Just
you
for the
said,
small thing right here.
yeah, just for that one thing.
That.
At least 15 people were probably involved with getting the parts, getting them to where they needed to go. Somebody did the artwork,
Sorting.
good
Test building.
Well, I think part of that too is Dan's choice to keep everything in house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a reason our boxes still say "Made in the USA," even though we use Lego. You know what I mean? It's because there's everything here is under one roof, and we don't outsource printing our stickers. You know, our UV printers are right there. We're not sending anything overseas and then getting our minifigures back and being like, good enough. They kind of hit it, you know what I mean? And then like moving on, it's like this. So a lot of that is kind of the choice that we've made, but then it results in the product, you know?
Exactly.
And a lot of that happened, in the past 3-4 years?
The expansion of it has, you know, Dan's always had the blueprint in his mind of how he can see these things operating, especially, you know, with the addition of the retail stores and having places to display things that he's building. But I think that when that really changed was when first of all, the pandemic, because we realized that we wanted to try to make more to get to more people because they had a lot of time on their hands. And then two was just like the kind of natural growth progression of Brickmania. When we started to realize we were going to be investing in more printers and stuff like that, it just kind of turned into its own beast. And because we had already started with we have our own print shop. Then when it came time to be like, we're going to start doing 3D printing, we didn't even think about outsourcing it. We literally were like, well, let's get some printers. Yeah. Amanda, Austin, you guys want to start experimenting with this stuff? You know what I mean? And boom, off we went running. And that has always been the coolest part of my job being here, 9 to 5, is being able to watch, it's stressful at times, don't get me wrong, but being able to watch that stuff, be like, are we going for this? Are we going to, all right. You know what I mean? And off you go. It's intense, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm excited to see where this goes in, let alone a year, but 10 years from now, at the stride that the company's made in the past 5 years since I started using it, a lot it's come a long way. We're probably going to start selling battleships or something else.
The mighty Missouri, now on sale.
Brickmania, the Machinella.
I would hate to have to do that digital and
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm taking that year off.
That would be one of those things where Dan would start with step 1, lay this brick down. Step 2, make an island.
Yeah.
I finished those instructions. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Kind of like that that one time with the F-14
exactly.
Tomcat. Now here's step 1, 2, and there's the rest of the build. Oh man!
Imagine being a test builder for that.
Right.
Yeah, Eric really loves it when we're like, we're going to do a drop video. And he's like, so I got to finish building this thing, testing it for instructions, and then you're going to grab it off my desk and drop it off a ladder. Thanks, guys. This is awesome. Before we wrap this thing up, though, the one thing I do want to push on. So obviously, Brickmania has pretty much only been dealing with historical things that we can find images of, pictures of, whatever. The Randoverse kind of changed that.
Yeah.
That was like a new initiative as of recently where we kind of took what saved Lego, and we didn't need saving, but if you guys remember, Bionicle was one of the things that Lego launched that like pulled them out of the dark ages. And what they realized is like, hey, if we can provide a story, it doesn't really matter if it's being based off of a movie or anything else. We just need to provide a land and a story for this for people to start building their own worlds. And I think that it's still in its infancy. Very much so. But I think that is the direction we're trying to do with the Randoverse, because then you avoid everything like movie licenses and stuff that you can get you in trouble. You know what I mean? And you just stick to something that is still a creative space, but we control the story and what happens, you know?
Plus, you can do whatever you want.
Exactly. It's Randoverse.
I'm hoping it kind of leans towards maybe some post-apocalyptic vehicles and stuff like that. Some mashup. Max. Got to have those Max. So, yeah. But, I mean, say like maybe you take a Land Rover like this and you mash it up with that tank somehow.
Well, and I think ever since we got Warhammer in our stores, we've been poking Games Workshop, and they've just never, we've heard rumblings that they've like received our emails, but they've never reached back out or said jack to us. And so I think part of it with the Randoverse, with some of the mechs ideas, we were like, all right, well, they're going to be real bummed out when they start to see what we're able to do, and they're going to be like, oh wait, do we have that email somewhere? You know what I mean? So I think,
too late.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's like we're going to just make it our own thing.
Come on,
I know. We'd still do it if they did, I'm sure, but it's like,
awesome.
Yeah.
You can make a rendition of it that's not that, right? Inspired by.
13%. Legally distinct.
No, yes, the Randoverse is really cool. A lot of my friends who are not really in this part of the community in the Lego world appreciate that for what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh wait, that's not military. What's going on here? So having like play scale things that you could actually play around with, and just so much to look at, and like every time I turn one of those sets, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Even though I built it already, like I didn't appreciate that vision straight to that corner of the building. Like, oh, that's what it was. Okay, and then you start like moving your minifigures to different spots because like it's cool, and you start bringing other minifigures, and before you know it, you're going like, and then your kids come in and be like, I want to play too, and I'm like, I'm playing the Lego bricks.
They're having a very serious discussion right now, actually.
This is adults only. Come back in an hour.
Sorry, it's the Doomsayer Brew Pub.
Yes, you might be 21.
So, which it forces play, which is something that it makes you love more about any set, is that if you're able to take it beyond the build, it's always good to do too. So that encapsulates that. I mean, 2 more.
Yeah.
Instead of once a year.
Yeah. I think we've known enough now to realize that the popularity is there to do it. The question is we got to now plan, because I remember we came up with the first 3 sets. We didn't actually stick to those at all, because Mary's Mop Chops was kind of one that when we took off the 3D printing, we're like, we got to get a reason to do dance dreads. We have to find a reason to do it. And so that's where that came from. And then the weapon store or whatever, but we'll see where the progression goes. And if the demand is there, we'll make it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it has been incredibly special to have all of you guys be able to sit down and even just chat a little bit. I know that the fan base is going to appreciate it as well. And who knows the next time this will be able to happen.
Yeah. It's been a great, well, I've been up here for 10 days now, so it's been a great experience. Just at home. So, but yeah, it's great to meet all you guys from across the pond, as we say here. So, finally, nice to get in touch with Justin. We've talked, I don't know how many times, Shy.
Oh my God.
It's an honor to meet you in person. So.
Likewise. It's great being here.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd ever be in this building, let alone sitting down with you guys. Like, I never thought that ever. And, with this past, pandemic now coming hopefully to a close, it's, starting to make us really appreciate one-on-one interaction.
Absolutely.
And there's just over the 3 days of World War Brick, there was such a positive vibe between everybody. Crap, I'm gonna start crying again.
It's a special community.
It's special community. There was a lot of emotional moments with some people, so it was fantastic to get together with everybody we see on Instagram and Facebook and meet them face to face and have those one-on-one interactions. So hopefully we can do it again real soon.
Yeah.
Well, the GHQ is starting to fill up, so we better give them their gaming table back. So, thank you guys for being here, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.